Welcome to Palm Springs, California. I'm Jeffery Jaxen, and I'm here at the FreedomFest, one of the largest libertarian conventions in the world. I'm coming to you live from the showroom floor, bringing you interviews with brilliant luminaries of personal liberty and freedom. Let's do this. All right, we're back live at the Freedom Fest, Palm Springs, California. I'm Jeffery Jaxen reporting for The High Wire, and I'm sitting here. It's my pleasure to introduce Adam Coleman. Adam, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, you just published a book. I have it right here. The Children We Left Behind, self-published, from my understanding. I want to talk about that. What was the impetus to write this book? What made you sit down and produce this?
It's funny because it's 4 years since my last book. And it took me so long. I had different ideas, and I was like, wait, this is the most obvious book for me to write. Because I would write all these different articles talking about how the family is impacting this big social story. And obviously I'm seeing that these massive social issues, homelessness, drug addiction, crime, all of these things share a common link. The vast majority of these people, as adults, were children who grew up in tumultuous homes.
Yeah.
Right. So I just kept bringing that up, and that's kind of like the impetus of talking about it.
Yeah, and I want to also tell people, you write for New York Post, you have your own Substack, you've been seen on Fox News. I know you were just in the UK doing a media blitz over there.
Yeah.
So your cultural commentary, I'll call it, is really, it's something that stuck out for me. It's insightful, it's piercing, it's dynamic, and I really think people should look at what you're saying, because and it's not that you're so special, but you have lived knowledge and lived experience that a lot of people don't have, and you apply that to what's happening in society right now, especially around the dynamics of family, fatherless children, or even the parental dynamics. Tell me just really briefly about your journey. I know you grew up in Detroit, and you had it in kind of a journey with that.
Yeah, I was born in Detroit. My father was 50 when I was born. My mother was 24. He was married to another woman. So already being born into a difficult situation. We left Detroit when I was about 6. And after then, I was just thinking about this. I probably saw my dad a handful of times after we left Detroit throughout my childhood. The last time I saw my father, I was 16. The last time I talked to him, I was 21. And he passed away, I believe it was 2018. And we only found out that he passed away because my mom happened to Google his name. Okay. Yeah.
So when you look across, so having that experience, and you look across what is happening in the world today, and you see, I'm going to say men, you see men dating younger women, having children with younger women, people that we hold up in societal culture, like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, having, these people are in their 70s and 80s having children with younger women, or even people with a lot of money, like you see. I don't want to name too many names, but the first thing that comes to my mind is Elon Musk saying, I just want to procreate because our population's down, and throwing money at the women. What is that for you? How does that input for you, and how do you see that?
Well, specifically the Elon Musk thing, it's harsh to say this because there is no perfect parent, but Elon Musk, by definition, is not a good father. And what I mean by that is he reduces fatherhood to being an income earner, right? And that's actually the biggest problem that we face, is that men are seen as the breadwinners, the income earners, but women work too.
Sure.
So if a woman makes enough, what's the guy for? He's optional. If he only has one sort of role, then he can disappear. But obviously fathers are important for a variety of things, and the least important thing is actually the money when it comes to raising children. So for Elon Musk, he obviously has a child who wants nothing to do with him. He's out here procreating with a bunch of women. It's already hard enough. He's a high income earner, high demand type of person. The most valuable thing a father owes his children is his time, and even the richest man in the world can't buy time. So I don't think he fully understands that. Maybe he's trying to make up for certain things with some of his kids, but I don't think you could be a good father if you're only a good father to some of your children.
Has the government impeded this process that you're talking about, or sped it up in any ways with policies? Have you seen policies over the decades, let's say a snapshot of about the last 50 years, especially in America? Have you seen the government proactively protect the family or work with policy to actually come between it and break it up?
You know, I tend not to talk about policy because what we're talking about are relationships.
Yeah.
Regardless of who the president was, my father made choices on his own, right? Each relationship is dependent on whatever dynamic they have with their partner. It has nothing to do with who's in power or the policy. But I see it in the same way as if you're a good person of strong moral code and someone gives you $10 million, you don't suddenly become a jerk, right? But if you're a jerk beforehand, you give them $10 million, they're just going to have a lot more fun with that $10 million being a jerk, right? It just accentuates what you are. So when they create policy to be exploited, then you have a lot of people who wanted that particular thing, who have a particular moral code, a framework already at hand, where they place that money over the father. So I think the government just accentuated what was already in people's minds. I don't think it necessarily created anything.
Yeah, okay. So you have a son now, and you have an experience of having a father that wasn't present for you.
Yeah.
What were the things that, when you had your son, and as you developed as a father, what were the things that you said, these are the things I'm not going to do. I will make sure my son has this experience that I did not have. These X, Y, and Z are those things. What were those things?
The day he was born, I told myself I'm not going to be my father. That was very low bar. I knew I didn't want to be my father. And I didn't know how to be a father because I didn't have a model. But I knew I was going to try my best. And how I approached it was, I thought about when I was a kid, what would I would have wanted from a father. So I always thought back to when I was a kid, as far as how I treat my son or discipline myself. Did I like that when I was a kid? I didn't like it. I'm not going to do that to my son. And I guess like the two big things was communication. I always wanted my son to feel comfortable talking to me. So that means that it's not one way, it's open. So if he asks me a question, I'm honest with him and I tell him how I feel. But I also tell him about like, hey, I struggled with this too. It's okay. And I would say the other thing is making sure he knows that I love him no matter what. Yeah. That my love isn't transactional and that I love him just because. So whatever he wants to do with his life, he's 19 now, so he's thinking about his future, his career. But whatever he wants to do, I support it. As long as he's not hurting anyone and he's not hurting himself, whatever you want to do. If you want to flip burgers and you're happy, flip burgers. Be the best burger flipper, right? But just do whatever makes you happy, but I'll love you no matter what.
It speaks to me about the difference between wanting to be one of your son's best friends and wanting to be his father, because there's a big difference between that. And I know a lot of parents fall into the trap of, well, I want to be a friend to my child. So why is that a kind of a trap, a pitfall? Because being a parent is a permanent state. It is something that is much higher stature than being a friend. I've had friends for a little bit and we don't talk anymore, right? Friends can be fleeting, right? And so you don't want a fleeting relationship with your children. Being a parent is something that is honorable, that you shouldn't run away from. And I think what ends up happening is, while they may be well-intentioned, they want to be their kids' friends. So they don't do the hard stuff. Like, you have to tell your kids no. You have to tell them what to do, right? We're friends. I can't tell you what to do, right? I have no authority over you. But as a parent, you have authority over them. So you have to tell them these things. And by becoming their friend, they're becoming on the equal level, which means they're not disciplining them. And so they lose respect for you at a level, maybe not consciously, but unconsciously. There's this place where they feel like they can give you a nudge here, a nudge there, or say, you know what, I know better than you. Don't tell me what to do. Exactly. And when they get to a certain age, where their vocabulary is more robust, and they can tell you how they feel, and they can walk out the house and not care. But I think deep down, for those kids, they say, my parents didn't love me enough to tell me no, right? When you want to be the parent that says, oh yeah, just drink alcohol in the house. As long as you're here, you're safer here. They know that drinking alcohol is not what a 14-year-old is supposed to be doing. And they're thinking to themselves, my parents don't care enough to tell me no.
right? So you're actually causing the opposite effect by wanting to be their friend.
And I just finished a documentary on the mental health crisis in America, which has been supercharged by COVID, to be fair. But there was problems even before we were going into COVID. How does the family dynamic add to that? Because when a lot of people hear mental health crisis, they think, all right, there's some type of chemical imbalance, or there needs to be a drug for this or that. Where does the family fit in on that, in the development of some of these issues? Not to get into the science deeply, but just overview on that.
I have a fundamental issue with how we talk about mental health, because the way we talk about it is like it's a permanent state. Like if your kid is depressed, well, they have issues with depression, and so they are always going to have issues with depression. But we wouldn't say that with someone who breaks their leg, right? It is no different. So when they say, oh, they did this because of mental health, well, how did that get there? How did it develop, right? And there's usually external factors that lead to how someone feels. If someone in your life dies and you're depressed, it makes sense that you're depressed. Right. You're mourning, you're dealing with something. It is an external situation, and you're trying to process that situation. So I don't know why we see it in different ways than people are reacting to the world that's around them. And if you're a child and your parents are drug addicts, they're alcoholics, they don't care about you, you go out into the world, someone physically abuses you, sexually abuses you, I mean, wouldn't that kind of mess you up in the head as well?
Yeah, yeah. And to walk around in someone's shoes that has had that happen, I don't know if a lot of people can even relate to that kind of life. What do you see in the school systems? I don't know if I can ask you this question, but was your son in public school or homeschooled? What choice did you make?
So it's interesting. He was in public school up until, so COVID happened, and he was supposed to go into his freshman year, but the schools were closed down. His sophomore year came. He wasn't in a really much of a good school. Teachers were leaving, phoning it in. Like, it was just a terrible experience. So much so he came to me and says, I don't want to go back. So for his junior year, we did homeschooling. And then what would be his senior year, he said, I'm taking the GED and I'm going to be done. So he studied on his own and found the test. He did everything on his own and passed, flying colors.
Wow. I mean, that's a journey a lot of parents can relate to, because it was just unlike anything anybody's ever experienced before. And a lot of those kids were really left behind emotionally as well. Absolutely. Well, when writing your book, when you put this out here to the public, I mean, it's a lot of personal information, and it's raw. I mean, I would imagine you're putting your heart out there. I have not written a book yet, but something this raw. What do you hope people take something away from this, or is it kind of like a musician that writes a song and say, just interpret it how you want?
No, I want them to take many things from it, depending on where they're coming from. If they're a child coming from a similar situation as me, understand that there is hope. Right? I talk a lot within the book specifically about the importance of hope. The absence of hope is what leads to people saying, I'm just going to end my life. It's the thing that clings us to life. So if I can overcome these obstacles, I think other people can, and for them to not lose hope. I talk about forgiveness. Despite all these things I'm saying about my father, even though he passed away, I don't hold any hatred towards my father. I accept my father didn't love me. That's what it is. I always left the door open. If he wanted to get in my life, I would accept that as long as he acknowledged his part. But I think forgiveness is very important. This has actually opened up conversations to parents who are like, what, I messed up. And I regret it. And I've had discussions, one-on-one discussions with fathers especially, who are trying to find a way to get back into their children's lives. And here's how you do it. Don't do it this way, right? Be accountable. When they say, I feel this way, and you know that, well, actually, that's not what happened. Don't harp on that. Acknowledge how they feel, right? They're going to put you through pain because they're going through pain, right? They want you to feel the same amount of pain that they experience. So this is ultimately, while it is culturally critical, it is a healing book. I do offer very simple, straightforward solutions. But it is to highlight areas that are very sensitive. And I would say one big sensitive area is bringing a non-biological adult into the home. And how much danger, especially when it's a male, but how much danger children are presented with when they let monsters into their home.
Well, I hope everyone reads this book. I want to hold it up one more time. The Children We Left Behind, Adam Coleman, author, political commentary, also cultural commentary, more importantly. And I want to talk to people as well. We have Jeffrey Jaxen Investigates. This is the documentary series. Now we're at episode 3. You can go watch these for free now until Father's Day. It's opened up. Forget about, again, Netflix. Forget about Amazon. Just for a couple days. Forget about the indoctrination and go just check out some straight up facts. And you can check that out now. My latest one is the Net Zero Rush, the climate conversation. We're putting it all in there. Check it out.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate change. And a media war over that crisis.
What we're talking about here is really the climate conversation that's dominated science and the conversation in society for decades.
Well, the climate has varied over billions of years, sometimes huge.
How has the climate changed before humans started industry?
Ice ages come and go. We've seen a lot of variation in the climate.
Dangerous human-caused climate change. That's what the UN is focusing on.
Dangerous is a human value judgment.
The push towards a green, battery-powered future comes with a major trade-off.
It's the left's electric vehicle hype real.
I thought climate change wasn't political.
In your dreams. It's been political right from the start.
Where does the electric car fall into this?
There is no greater source of carbon in our society than from combustion engine sources.
Looking at headlines, I'm seeing the word the white gold rush. This is lithium.
What we've always kind of heard is that we need the minerals and we need them now. You can file a claim on public land anywhere, and you have the right under the mining law to work that claim.
We have done this project right, and not everybody agrees that we've done it right.
Problem is that any kind of extraction is enormously damaging to the environment.
Regardless of whatever people say, there are sacred sites that are out there. One day, our Mother Earth is going to say enough is enough.